30 minutes before On the Record started, we spoke to Donald Trump, and the news had just broken out of Nice about the terrorism. I asked Donald Trump about what we were seeing on the screens, and here's what he's had to say to us. Donald, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Greta.
Donald, very disturbing news out of Nice, France right now. We're still getting more information. Dozens killed. Someone in a truck drove into a crowd. It's Bastille Day. We're hearing there's total panic. Locals are told to stay indoors. They don't know what's going on, but it looks like it's possible that this is terrorism striking Nice. Your thoughts?
Well, it sounds like here we go again. It's going to be a whole different world. We're living in a whole different world. There's no respect for law and order. There's no respect for anything or anybody. And this has to be dealt with very harshly. And when I come out with my non-politically correct statements that a lot of people love and some people think are so terrible, and then you have attacks like this and so many other attacks, I mean, let's see what happens with this when it's early to tell. But I would think that perhaps you're not wrong the way you started this question. We have to get awfully tough, and we have to get very, very smart and vigilant. And if we don't, we're just not going to have a society. We're not going to have a world anymore. This is crazy what's going on.
I don't want to jump too far ahead. This is so early in the investigation, but it has all the hallmark of terrorism. We saw that last November 13th in Paris, and we've seen it many other instances. So naturally, we all jump to conclusions it's terrorism. Assuming this is terrorism, and assuming you were President of the United States, what would you be doing right now?
Well, I'd be making it very, very hard for people to come into our country, for one thing, from terrorist areas. I would be so extreme in terms of documentation. We have people that Hillary Clinton wants to allow 550% more than Obama, and Obama's allowing a lot of people to come in. We have no idea who they are. They're from Syria, maybe, but they have no paperwork many times. They don't have documentation proper. I would make it, I would not allow people to come in from terrorist nations. I would do extreme vetting. I would call it extreme vetting, too. And, you know, our country has tremendous problems. We don't need any more of the problems. Right now, we have more investigations of this kind going on than we've ever had in the history of our country. And we're going to allow thousands and tens of thousands of more people coming in. And then you see a situation like in Nice, France. It's a horrible thing. And we better get awfully tough. And I'm talking about our country, but I'm almost talking about the world, because look at what's going on in France. Look at what's going on in other countries. It's bedlam.
All right. Well, like I keep noting, and for both of us, is that we don't know. This is just an ongoing investigation. But but we have the situation, for instance, in Orlando. That was homegrown terrorism. In a sense, these are not people trying to come into the country, and we don't know if this is terrorism in France, whether it's someone who's a French citizen or for someplace else. But is there something the president should be doing? Is there something to convene? Should we be calling President Hollande, new Prime Minister May, Angela Merkel? Is there some way to sort of step this up? Because we do see a lot of attacks in this world.
Well, you do, and second generation turns out to be very bad for whatever reason, but second generation, and again, who knows the new one in France? Maybe it's not, but you probably have a pretty good gut instinct. But you look at what's happening, and yeah, I'd be calling heads of countries, and I'd be saying we have to tighten things up. And I can tell you for our country, we have to tighten it up. Look at San Bernardino, what happened there, the way they came in. She probably radicalized him. 14 people dead, many, many, many injured, still horribly injured, permanently injured. You look at Paris prior to this. You look at Paris, 130 people dead, hundreds of people still in the hospital. I mean, what are we doing? We're trying to be so nice. We're trying to be so civil. We're so weak. The world has got to strengthen up, and we have to be very tight with our borders. It's now a different world, Greta. This isn't 40 years ago and 80 years ago. This is a different world. We're trying to be so politically correct, and we're making such big mistakes.
All right, well, let me just jump to the politically correct. You know, the rumors out there, I'm sure. I know you've denied that you've made a decision or you haven't released it, but Governor Mike Pence, who is, the media is reporting that they think is your vice presidential nominee. He said back in December, calls to ban Muslims from entering the United States are offensive and unconstitutional. In light of the remarks you've made about a temporary ban, how would you reconcile that?
Well, you know, I'm not going to agree with anybody. I mean, I've interviewed many, many people would like to have this position. You see what's happening with the polls. The polls are very strong and getting up and stronger every day. And a lot of people want this position. A lot of people that you don't know about want this position. And there's nobody that agrees with me fully on anything. There's always going to be somebody where they disagree on a border, or they disagree on a Muslim ban, or they disagree on something. So I fully understand that. Probably less with Mike than most, but I haven't made my final decision. I mean, I've got 3 people that are fantastic. I think Newt is a fantastic person. I think Chris Christie is a fantastic person, been a friend of mine for 15 years, just a fantastic person. And there's Mike, and Mike has done a great job as governor of Indiana. You look at the numbers, and it's been a great, you know, he's done really a fantastic job. So, you know, but I haven't made a final decision.
All right, well, let me go back to what's going on in Nice and this terrorism. What do you think that President Obama is going to be doing tonight about this, and contrast it with what you'd be doing tonight? Well,
the first thing he should do is say it's radical, if it is, and it may not be. And so, you know, I want to preface that because for both of us, because you're in the same position as I am. But generally speaking, I don't think the people come out of Sweden, okay? It's probably, possibly, but if it is indeed radical Islamic terrorism, it's about time that he would say so, okay? It's about time, because you're never going to solve this problem unless you're going to define it. And it would be about time that people would sigh with relief if he would say it. But he doesn't want to say it. So let's see what happens. I mean, it just happened now, and let's see who did it and what it's all about. But if it is indeed, again, like in Orlando, like in San Bernardino, like in Paris, like in the World Trade Center, like so many other places, if it's radical Islamic terrorism, he ought to say it.
And then what?
And then not let people in. And then not let people into our country, Greta. We are taking people into our country. We don't know who they are. We can't let people from terrorist states and all of these people pour into our country, because, you know, it only takes 1 or 2 people to create havoc. And we're allowing thousands of people. We have no idea who they are. We have to be tough. Look, somebody said it the other day that Trump is the law and order candidate. I'm the border candidate. I'm the great trade candidate. We'll make great trade deals. But I am indeed the law and order candidate. And Hillary is weak and ineffective. She created ISIS with her stupid policies. So if this turns out to be yet another attack from radical Islam, then we're going to have to our president is going to have to finally admit and do something about it.
Donald, thank you for joining us. This was not exactly what I planned on us talking about tonight, but obviously this breaking news out of Nice, it takes front and center of all of our attention.
It is so sad to see, Greta. It's so sad, and it's constant. It's constant. We don't do anything about it. We're weak, and we're weakly led and ineffective. Thank you, Greta, very much.
Thank you, Donald.